Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. I've seen a lot of YouTubers make wishlist videos of Battlefield 5 recently, and being the critic I am for the game, I thought I'd have a take on this video. A lot of the videos I've seen on the topic focus on additional content. While the game is incomplete in terms of content, it's far less complete in many other aspects and almost non-existent in certain areas. Within this video, I'm going to take a top 5 approach to this list, and I'll rank the things that I'd like to see the most in Battlefield 5. Now before I get into it, I like to say that some of these things might be pretty boring to a lot of you. However, I feel like a lot of them certainly make up the foundation of any great game. So with that out of the way, let's get going. So at number 5, we have something pretty insignificant for most players, but an essential feature for any great multiplayer game. And that is a total overhaul for the test range within BF5. Currently, Battlefield 5 has one of the weakest test ranges I've ever seen, but in short, we need the ability to customize weapons, customize vehicles, change vehicles beyond the couple available in there, and clean the absolutely counterintuitive area we currently have. Like, why the hell do they find it necessary to hide the team killing button? Make this stuff easy and intuitive for the user, and if needed, just copy the BF4 test range as it was pretty much perfect. The fact that something as bad as the current test range wasn't available at launch is honestly ridiculous, meaning that this thing took more than 5 minutes to whack together. So coming in at number 4, the next thing I want to see in Battlefield is an overhaul in visual settings and performance. In the current build of the game, visuals are pretty cluttered in terms of UI, and even worse in terms of visual clarity. Spotting in this game is the hardest it's ever been, and without 3D spotting, I feel like they went too far. This is also largely due to the forced TAA and insane amount of particles in the game at any given time. Giving the option to turn off these settings would improve performance and give the same advantage to all players, as currently some of this stuff is disabled in a config, and further more can be disabled using the video inspector. But this should be available to all players, obviously not the inspector thing, but they should be able to turn down particle effects, as it would make the game a lot less CPU intensive. Currently the game is insanely CPU intensive. For reference, my i7 7700K is always at 100% while playing with 1070. Now if they could somehow lower the CPU usage in this game, I'm sure it'll be accessible to more players. As of right now, if someone asks me whether they should get BF5, one of my first questions is whether or not they have an i7, and a high-end one at that. If not, I'll never recommend the game. Coming at number 3, we have something I know a lot of players would rank higher, but that is having more nations within the game. Specifically, I want to see America, Russia, and Japan in a World War II game for sure. With some of these, DICE would have access to a lot more battles to recreate, a lot more vehicles to add, and a lot more weapons. Now while all this sounds just really good, I've only got it at number 3 for a reason that already affects the current build of Battlefield 5. As a lot of you know, Battlefield 5 has asymmetrical balancing. With more nations, we'll see even more different loadouts in planes and tanks. As we've seen, DICE hasn't even been able to balance 2 asymmetrical factions, so 5 might be pretty scary, as right now the Germans are getting stomped by the British in the air, and kind of in the ground as well. And before this we had the Germans stomping the Brits. I've never seen this game in a balanced state as far as air balance goes from beta to present, so adding 2 to 3 more factions kinda scares me. However, the new content would be pretty fun, and will certainly bring more people into the game, which is essential for longevity. In addition, when combined with our next spot, we can do this pretty safely. So in number 2, and you could interchange this in the first spot, I've got something that we had in Battlefield 4, and that is the CTE, or Community Test Environment. This thing was one of the greatest things DICE did for Battlefield 4, and it was a test build of the game, which DICE would test their changes on before bringing them into the main build. Some notable things that were tested back in BF4 were a new experimental speed control model, and the Final Stand DLC, which brought some things that were pretty new to the Frostbite engine, such as hover tanks and railguns. From this, DICE was able to avoid some bad decisions, and improve many aspects of the game, without accidentally destroying the game for a week, like we saw with TTK changes. The CTA was without a doubt one of the best things that Battlefield 4 did, and it's one of the things that made Battlefield 4 one of the best Battlefield games of all time. And perhaps with Battlefield 5 we could retake those steps that brought BF4 from awful to incredible, and just test things out before we put them into the game. Okay, so coming in my number 1 spot, the thing I want to see most in BF5 is the ability to rent servers. In Battlefield 1 this is called RSP, or Rental Server Program, and is absolutely essential for a lot of things. The first and probably most significant is that it is almost essential for Battlefield communities to continue to exist into Battlefield 5. I know a lot of communities have supported and provided servers in Battlefield for a long time when DICE wouldn't do it themselves. They don't seem to care, however, and haven't given a concrete time for this feature, putting many Battlefield focused communities in danger. The second most significant use of RSP would be for scrims and competitive games. For BF5 to have a competitive scene, we need the ability to practice and play in private, password protected servers with a good selection of settings. branching from this, the dogfighting community would also rely on this kind of server to practice, and would just appreciate the feature overall for testing as well. Finally, probably like just the least significant aspect is that it would be a nice thing for content creators to use and do research and take cinematic videos in. So for the last part of this video, I went into the CFA Discord and I've just asked what people wanted to see as far as features in Battlefield 5. I've got a bunch of responses here, but to keep things short, I'm just going to go over a few of the simple ones. So the first thing is that SMGs are pretty inconsistent. They have a lot of horizontal recoil, the hipfire isn't always consistent, the muzzle velocity is really low, and yeah, it just all contributes to being a very inconsistent experience. Hamada is pretty much hell on earth. The format of having Conquest Assault just doesn't really work that well. Vehicles don't have any resupply places. The haze is really bad. The flag assets with the plane is pretty unfair. It's just a very bad map. It literally kills servers. Another thing is the desire for tanks to get a speed or acceleration boost when you hit shift. This additional mobility might actually make the tanks more useful objectively and will make them a lot more survivable, giving them a little boost to get out of like tricky situations. With the current vehicle system, you can also spawn whatever you want. This often leaves roles unfilled. For example, in Battlefield 4 we had a fighter plane and an attack plane. What this did was pretty much had one guy take care of the air targets and one guy go for the ground. In Battlefield 5, you might have one team all spawn fighters and one team all spawn bombers. This results in the team with fighters clubbing in the air against the bombers, and then they're just pretty much done. If it was Battlefield 4, you'd have the stealth jets kind of go into a dogfight, the attack jets will also come in and help that, and it just results in a guaranteed matchup rather than often having one team all bombers, one team all fighters, and then one team just clubs the other team. This happened so much in the earlier stages of the game where the best British plane was the VA Spitfire, and the best German plane was the Ju-88. So it would just happen every single time basically. Another thing is that AAs would often never be spawned, and sometimes AAs would only be spawned. If one team spawns all AA, one team spawns all tanks, then the team with the AA gets absolutely destroyed. So having specific roles like Battlefield 4 had would be really nice. Same thing with Battlefield 3 I guess, but I feel like Battlefield 4 was the peak here. Anyways, that is my list of things that I'd like to see in Battlefield 5, including some stuff from some pretty good players out there. Hope you guys all enjoyed the video. And if you're not in my Discord already, I'd recommend getting into that. I also stream a lot over my Twitch at Silk2G, so I'm going to have a schedule up very soon, so stay tuned for that. Again, just a shameless plug on my Twitter. It does exist, and I do post my stream out on there a bit, and I might post some random stuff. It's also a good way to get notifications for videos, because YouTube doesn't always do that. Anyways, I think that's all done now, so I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.